The attack leaves only Norman, Beth, and Harry alive. The tension between the three gets so convoluted so quickly that the viewer gets whiplash and can't follow along. First, Norman and Beth suspect Harry of being up to something since he's acting way too calm. Then Norman and Harry suspect Beth because she's going crazy. Then Norman and Beth suspect Harry again. Then Beth has a psychotic breakdown, blames Norman for everything going wrong, and tries to kill him. And all the while, Norman is the only one who really keeps his cool while psychoanalyzing the others. The movie's been doing a pretty good job building tension so far, having the characters play off each other, but this is where it really starts to falter. The pacing is off and is a lot more rushed than the previous scenes. They try to keep a lot of the parts from the book the same, but unfortunately, that's what really killed it. By this point, the more the movie goes on, the more rushed it gets. As Norman grows concerned for their survival, he notices that Harry takes things way too calmly.
You know there was an attack on this place.
No, I must have slept through it.
You slept through it.
I was dead tired.
Yeah, I've been there. Of course, all this stress is making Beth crack up.
Well, all I know is going out to look for 300-year-old food in that spaceship when there's plenty of food here isn't exactly normal.
Plenty of food. There isn't any.
Ta-da! A veritable horn of plenty.
But she isn't the only one.
You dropped your book.
Well, someone's making Jules Verne a rich man. Seeing Harry's collection of 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea makes Norman suspect the calm mathematician, and he asks the unresponsive Jerry for advice.
Harry is reading this book, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. What makes me nervous is that after page 87, it's all blank pages. Why? Why? What's going on?
So he goes back and checks the original code using the cipher that Harry and Ted made. See, this is what I was talking about when I said the code worked better in the book. The reader always has the chance to sit down and solve the code, check it for themselves, but the code is long and complicated, and by not doing it, the reader comes out just as shocked as Norman is here. Now, it's not a fault of the movie by any means. They can't just put the cipher on screen for 5 minutes and let you try to figure it out for yourself, but it is an example of difficulty in changing mediums. Sometimes things just don't translate well. Speaking of not translating well, Norman figures out what the sphere does, but he does it off screen.
Harry not only makes it real for himself, Beth, he makes it real for you, he makes it real for me, he has made it real for everybody.
The sphere brings your unconscious mind to life. Your fears, your nightmares all come out just like the giant squid did or the jellyfish that killed Queen Latifah. The question now is, who's doing it? Well, Beth, who's totally not losing it despite popping all that Xanax, traps Norman in the lab and demands that he injects himself with a tranquilizer. When Norman refuses, Beth does the only logical thing she can think of. She tries to kill him.
Beth, why are you taking the gas out of the room, Beth? That's my air.
Beth is convinced Norman went inside the sphere, gained the power from the sphere, and is now projecting his fears into the room.
Isn't it possible that you went inside the sphere and you just don't remember?
I didn't go inside the sphere.
Yes, you did.
Norman, was he alive?
You went inside the sphere and you just don't remember. That's wrong.
Norman gets out via the ceiling, plunging himself into water so cold that he'll be dead in under 2 minutes. But Norman, being the nice guy that he is, comes back to console Beth, and Harry comes in to join them. And they all realize they've all been inside the sphere, and they all have the power to manifest their imagination.
Panther explosives are now activated. Mark 13 minutes and counting.
Anybody want to tell me who that voice is?
Yeah, they had explosives down here, to blow up the coral. So when I went out, before I set up a defense perimeter around the door of the spaceship.
Why? Look, I know I haven't done this much since the movie's been pretty faithful to the book, but The movie never explains why she does this. In the book, she was terrified of Harry's squid coming back to attack them again, so she armed the explosives around the habitat like what you see here. But here in the movie, it's like, ooh, new toys! Do-do-do-do-do-do-do.
I was just thinking about the explosives that just flashed inside my mind. It must have triggered them.
There's a lot of liquid hydrogen left on that spacecraft. If it explodes, it'll disintegrate everything.
Finish up now. Let's go.
But wait, if Beth's power activated the bombs, then why don't all three of them use their powers to stop the countdown? Or disable the bombs? Or wish them away? Is it supposed to be too risky for them to even think about the bombs? Okay, we should be fine. We still have 10 minutes to get out of here. Just no one think about the timer running out. God damn it. So the three survivors have more than 10 minutes to get to the mini-sub. Plenty of time, even considering how long it takes them to suit up and run through the water, right? My friends, you have not seen useless padding quite like this. They start worrying and an illusion forms around them, making them believe they're in the spaceship. What's even the point of this? If you want to build tension, don't pad it out with this last-minute rush. Just shorten the timers by a few minutes. It has the same effect. In the book, Beth was knocked out, but even asleep, her power over the bombs was stronger than both Norman and Harry's, so there was a reason why they couldn't just stop the countdown. This is what I was talking about when I mentioned the rush pace. But Norman figures out it's an illusion and manages to get the mini-sub just out of the blast radius just in time. However, during decompression, they decide that no one should have this power since they could barely control it themselves. So they decide to forget the power and the sphere, erasing all evidence that it existed. Oh, except for launching it in the middle of half the United States Naval Fleet!
Can somebody tell me what the hell that's supposed to be?
I'm sure no questions will rise from the destruction of the habitat, the deaths of 4 people in that habitat, or the giant golden ball flying into space! And the movie ends awkwardly with the survivors' memories wiped. This adaptation actually isn't that bad. The first half is pretty good, and if the second half had been written better, it might have stood a better chance in the box office. I mock it, of course, but it did a great job following the book. The characters are similar, the actors did a great job portraying them, the setting is great, there's real tension, and it did a lot to capture the spirit of the book. Standing alone as a movie, it's not as good since you need the book to fill in several plot points. Beth doesn't really have any chemistry with the other actors, so despite Sharon Stone being a good actress, she doesn't really fit in here. But perhaps they could have left more out from the book. Honestly, there's too much story and a lot of it feels compacted, with scenes and character actions not really being explained or properly implied. The second half feels like they tried to squeeze in everything they could, so several events are rushed or simply skipped and talked about later in different scenes. The tension which drove the first half really isn't around here. It's bumpy and makes for awkward storytelling.
Why? Why, Jerry? Why is this book half a book, Jerry?
The scenes that follow were meant to disorient the viewer, and they do, but not in the way the movie wants. Scenes are barely connected, and we're never given that proverbial carrot on the stick to have us follow along. There were plenty of things left out from the book, of course, like the multiple squid attacks and a lot more of Norman's psychology, which I really enjoyed. One thing in particular that he says is about how we can't really self-analyze because of the unconscious mind and automatic processes that are always happening, but we never really think about. And if any of my bosses are watching, I hope they realize that basing promotions around self-analysis instead of merit is bullshit. Go fuck yourself! Overall, the movie's okay. The book is better, of course, but you might still have fun checking the movie out. I'm Crimson Rogue, and he's sick of this motherfucking ball on this motherfucking movie. Goddamn alarm.
Yes, my brothers, strike down the oppressors. Victory shall be ours!